My name is Victor Gamra. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Fortified Data. We help organizations automate cyber risk management functions for themselves as well as for their third parties. Just a little bit before I dive into it, I'm a former CISO for a financial services company based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I identified a gap, just perhaps like most of you all, which is how do you automate cybersecurity risk management functions for your organization? There are security ratings products, which if some of you are users, you understand the struggles with those types of solutions. And there is a more manual process, which is all Excel spreadsheet driven, and how do you assess controls and report and continuously monitor against the effectiveness of those controls. So that's one of the core reasons why I founded the company. As I mentioned, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia. Although we're based in Atlanta, Georgia, we do have a significant presence here in Europe. Our very first customer was based in the Netherlands, was the biggest financial services company or institution in the Netherlands, and we're spread across Europe as well. We've won a few awards this year for hottest security ratings company as well as risk management company award. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit about, and this is not to finger point or your secret is safe, at least in this room, but just by show of hands, who's using the most traditional methods of risk assessments right now? More manual, Excel spreadsheets driven. Okay, great. Again, doesn't leave this room, right? But as we all know, there's a challenge with that, which is how do you gain this continuous visibility against the effectiveness of those controls, right? How do you know that you need to pour more investment into a particular new control based on the gaps that it's now introduced by whatever technology that the IT team has implemented. So you have those traditional methodologies, and then security ratings came about, and they sort of gave this illusion, I'll call it illusion of risk level, accuracy, risk exposure level for your organization. A lot of board members and C-level suite people that don't necessarily understand cybersecurity love the security rating solutions. So again, show of hands if you're using a security ratings provider today, either for yourself or for your vendors. Okay, great. So we all know the challenges with those security ratings products. It's a one-size-fits-all model. I think an individual raised a question prior about how do you assess the services versus the organization as a whole, based on the presentation that was done just moments earlier. So being able to use a multi-layered scoring and ratings approach is also one of the solutions of this next generation solution for risk management functions. So combining an automated questionnaire, right, to help you understand your various controls that you have in place and you need, and based on technology assessments to assess against the effectiveness of those controls using vulnerability data, using threat intelligence data to determine what's the likelihood of these threat events occurring within my industry. What are the TTPs for this particular threat actor group, and how are they using these types of exploits within my own particular industry, focused on these particular vulnerabilities that I'm also susceptible to. And these are some of the issues, just some of the reasons why this next generation of risk-based vulnerability management system exists, as well as a ratings component. So we help organizations continuously assess against the controls within their environments. You don't need to wait for an entire year to pull out your spreadsheets again and try to, or maybe every other year or every 10 years. You're continuously assessing against these vulnerabilities and threats to your organization, against those controls that you should have in place, based on whatever framework that you're leveraging, be it PCI, NIST CSF, ISO 27001, and so forth. So some of the benefits, as we mentioned, is continuously monitoring against those risks throughout your environments, externally, internally, your third-party risks as well. but also how do you feed it contextualized risk information, right? It's beyond just looking at data and saying, oh, I'm going to give you an X rating. So we actually give the ability for you to classify your assets based on the type of data sets that is being stored, processed, or transmitted through that system. We look at the likelihood of occurrence, like I mentioned earlier. A lot of people don't necessarily leverage threat intelligence data the right way, but using threat intelligence data to help inform the likelihood of threat events, especially within your particular domain or industry, is very powerful. So leveraging that integration is very powerful. What is the impact to your business? And leveraging various types of data sets, again for those types of informing of risk. Again, once the assessments are done, we are able to provide a more accurate visibility of, on this particular asset, here's what we're seeing, here, if you have a control, here's the level of control that is being provided, here's the effectiveness level of that particular control. So you know if you need to invest more dollars or euros in terms of risk mitigation methodology or risk mitigation techniques. But also, like I mentioned earlier, being able to classify your assets based on the types of data that's being stored, processed, or transmitted on that system. So you can ingest that data. If you have a CIDB, we can integrate that solution. If you have that data stored somewhere, we can automatically pull that data set and help you classify your assets. But also looking at overall risk levels. So vulnerability is one thing, the risk is another. The risk is, as we know, the intersection of vulnerabilities and threats. So being able to integrate that information to give you this holistic view of risk throughout your environment. Again, external and internal, if you have a cloud infrastructure, we can pull that data in. And ultimately, it gives you a prioritized list of to-dos, right? Because it's continuously assessing, and you need to inform the IT teams of what to focus your limited resources on, right? So there's always going to be vulnerabilities, but what are the most impactful to your organization? That's what Fortified Data does very well. It gives you a list of prioritized items that your team should be focused on at every given point in time. Again, if you would like to learn more about us, we're right behind this wall towards the window. And again, I appreciate you all for your time. Thanks,